Hello, and welcome back to the Eclectic Popcast. My name is Britt. Thank you so much for joining me and listening. I greatly appreciate it. Well, I thought I'd give a week update. Not week as in I'm feeling weak, but a week. The week gone by. It's been one of those weeks where, have you ever had one of those weeks where you feel you're trying to get stuff done, right? So you're trying to get things off your plate, but it ultimately feels like you just move stuff around the plate. Have you ever done that when you were a kid and you didn't want to eat what was on the plate, and so you just tried to move it around to make it look like you had made progress in eating it, hoping it would be too cold and that it had already been rewarmed 2 times so you were not going to have to eat it? Okay, well, maybe you didn't. I did, and it's just been one of those weeks. I have legitimately been trying to get stuff done, and it just has. It's felt like everything, no matter what I do, I don't make any progress. And maybe I need to do a better job documenting my done list, which I do to remind myself that I did get something done. Nevertheless, enough about life. Let's talk about entertainment. And so I gotta tell you, it could not be a worse time. And I do not understand. I understand the actor strike, but at the same time, okay, so Hollywood is just trying to recover from COVID and all of the shutdowns and the fact that they had this huge lag where they couldn't produce anything, and then they found a way, they felt, to move forward, but that put things on ice for quite a while, and it did impact things. And now everything kind of was just getting back to normal. People finally showed up at the theaters, and they went to go see Barbie, and that was huge success, pre-COVID success level. I mean, really big. Now, I don't know how much of that was because of raised theater prices, because nothing entices me more to go to the movies than to pay for the people who didn't show up at the movies. You know, you're paying, what, $15, $16 a ticket to go and see a movie, instead of them lowering the prices so that they can get more people enticed to go in there. They want you to pay more because they want you to pay for the people who won't show up. I think it's an absolutely horrible business plan, and if they would actually lower prices, you would see theater attendance go up. But I don't really think getting theater attendance back up is what they really want. Okay. Not gonna go down that rabbit hole too far and too long. So anyway, now the actors are striking with everyone else. A lot of this about AI. And I saw an interview, and I'll link it down below, with an actor who said that they were kind of they're a upper middle class actor. They're not a big Hollywood name, but you've seen them and stuff. And they were saying this AI is a threat to their job. And I'm thinking, yeah, you know, you're probably not going to be able to make it on what you're making, doing what you used to do in movies and TV, and that's a shame. But guess what else? I'm not making money doing what I actually love to do. You're going to need another side hustle. Everyone is getting one. Everyone is having to do that to survive. I don't think actors should be any different. And I'm speaking of actors who are quote-unquote atmosphere artists, which is the name been given to extras or anyone else. And I do think the AI is mainly targeted. I haven't looked a whole lot into this issue because it's just too complicated, and I'm not that complex of a thinker. But with AI, you have the ability to basically duplicate crowds of people, and I've actually seen this a few times in epics, normally the sword and sandal kind of movies where they have a big crowd, an army, so they just copy paste, and I guess that would be considered AI, right? You're using the image of the original people and you're duplicating it over and over again, and you're not having to pay any other actors to fill in those spots. You see what I'm saying? They're not having to cast a whole horde of people. They're just having to do one, probably 40 people, and then they just duplicate that over and over again. Makes perfect sense, and it cuts down on the budget, I'm sure, because when you are having to pay for craft service for extras, I mean, obviously, I don't know. I've heard different things about what people get as extras. I've heard people just say they stand around in the rain in ponchos and it's miserable and they don't get anything to eat and they don't get bathroom breaks. And then I've heard people say they were enjoying eating off the craft service table and kind of living like royalty. So it depends on, I'm sure, on what kind of production you're working on. And that goes for the pay as well. But I think that's really where AI is coming. The idea that they're going to take, for instance, Margot Robbie and her image, and they're going to use AI and cast her in a bunch of movies. For instance, they could put her in To Catch a Thief. What you saw happen in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was they used AI to put Leonardo DiCaprio in these movies, these old-timey movies, and they morphed him on it. You could do that with Margot Robbie, and hopefully take her whole body and not just do a face, because that does look weird, okay? And I don't know that they really just took Leonardo DiCaprio's face and put it on, and just used his face for those flashbacks on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'd have to look back on that. But nevertheless, you could put Margot Robbie in To Catch a Thief and put her in Grace Kelly's role, and you see what I'm saying? And just AI her in there. That is the idea I think the mainstream public is getting, that's the threat actors are concerned about. And I'm sure that's certainly a facet, but I think I once saw, let me take a little bit of a segue here, okay? When I was around 8 years old, I was watching C-SPAN with my father, I know. And they had a presentation with a community activist, and she was explaining how you as an activist actually achieve your goal. And she spoke of, and I believe this was a real situation that happened, not a theoretical. She and her group wanted to save these frogs that lived in this, in this area, and they wanted to put an airport, or they actually, not an airport, they wanted to put a highway, they wanted to put some kind of, they wanted to build there, okay? And it would have completely disrupted the natural habitat and all of the frogs. So they wanted to save the frogs. So they knew that they could not just rely on getting out and telling people, hey, don't you want to save these poor frogs? Now for me, that would have been enough to sign the petition. But other people needed more of an incentive. So she was talking with the group, and they were kind of going back and forth, and then it hit them. How do you get people to do something? You tell them that it could hurt them, because most people are self-motivated. So they ended up changing their petition up and explaining to these people that they were going to be getting a whole lot more noise traffic. They were going to be having, or noise pollution. They're going to get that. They were going to be, the traffic around their home was going to be unlivable. It was going to be just miserable for them, okay? They ended up signing the petition, saying no to the build and fighting the build. And what do you know? The build did not happen. The frogs were saved. And everyone who signed that petition thought they had done that for themselves. So, ever since seeing that, my family, we talk about how do you save the frog? Meaning, what's the Trojan horse? What are you really after? And then what does everyone think you're after? Those can be very different things, okay? So I feel like the frog in this strike is actually about the extras. It's about saving and paying for them to not be AI'd and for them to pay for what on screen will look like 400 people. They want to have actually 400 extras. They don't want to have 40 people, 40 actors, and then have them duplicated, so that there's a crowd of 400. And I think they're using the idea and the threat of saying, oh, we're going to take, you name them, and put them in and have their AI and basically make Margot Robbie's not going to have any control over what movie she appears in, what she does in that movie, because Hollywood owns her image. And I'm sure that's a real thing and a real threat, but don't think that at this point, at least, the audiences are willing to accept an AI Margot Robbie in the main movie role. I mean, I could be wrong. So I feel like the extras are the frogs in this situation. And they're using that threat to kind of move people and supporting the actors, because I feel like the media is definitely going to be pro actors. They're pro any kind of, they support any kind of situation like this. They're going to support them. And why not? They want them to be willing to come back and do interviews, don't they? And so it's messing everything up in terms of now when are they going to get back to work after COVID? Like I said, devastating, and now they're going to pull this off. So it's putting a lot of strain on the industry. And I ask myself, is this undue strain, or is this viable and necessary? One thing I do want to point out that kind of, it's putting I think it's putting a damper on the actors' ability to move this forward. You got a huge company like Netflix. Netflix is bringing in a lot of content from overseas. Okay, there's a lot of they're bringing in a lot of non-English language films and television series, and quite frankly, that's most of what I watch on Netflix. I'm not watching a lot of the English language stuff. I'm watching stuff from non-English speaking countries. They dub it, they put it in. For those of us who might feel whatever, we can't read that night, I have that. And so they're dubbed. It's really easy to follow and watch. And there's no need to see an actor that I quote-unquote recognize in the lead role. I actually have gotten to the point, though, now that with non-English speaking casts that oh yeah, I remember them from this. And so I've seen enough stuff where they actually have become recognizable figures to me. That is essentially one of the biggest shows on Netflix has been Squid Game. Squid Game from South Korea. They are not striking. That is a non-issue, a non-threat, and all you have to just say to the actors with SAG AFTRA is, yeah, we're not worried. We're bringing in foreign content, and people are going to watch it. Brings me back to that awful strike from years ago. I think it was over 10 years ago. So basically, get to work. And at that point, I believe it was affecting my beloved Smallville, and I'm just sitting there going, "Can you just work this out so you guys we can get back to normal?" It's kind of like your parents fighting, right? Can you guys settle this so that I can finish watching my TV show in peace? I don't know. So getting back to the actors, and I think putting a damper and things, they need to really be careful about what they say, okay? I'm talking about the top actors right now. Not top, but not like number one or whatever, but I'm talking about the A-list people, okay? So that list has been so up in the air. People so interchangeable. I don't even think it means anything anymore to be A-list, quite frankly. But they need to be very careful about what they say. You don't want another Gal Gadot situation with Imagine and the song. She got all this backlash because of the COVID, and people were singing verses in their mansions, and people really got angry about that. I personally wasn't outraged by it because, yeah, they're living in a mansion. I don't live in a mansion. I'm happy for them. They live in a mansion. Them living in a mansion, it did not come at a personal cost to me. But anyway, I'll probably edit that out. So I do think that A-list actors need to be, and entertainers need to be very careful what they say, because they're going to get caught in a situation like this. Mandy Moore, I saw this on Instagram as well, and I'll throw up the screen cap. I saw this on Us Weekly. This was suggested to me, and on the Explore page. And I see Mandy Moore, who I've been a fan of since she began her career. And there's a picture of her, obviously, and there's a quote. And it says, quote, "I received very tiny, like 81-cent checks." So, of course, that caught my attention, and I'm thinking, So I read down in the caption, it says, Mandy Moore revealed she makes literal pennies from This Is Us streaming residual checks as she and former co-stars join the SAG strike. Well, let me just tell you, and again, I'll try to post the link in the description box for it. People in the comment section had no empathy whatsoever. They're like, yeah, no, do you know what I'm dealing with? People are very, again, and this is the frog situation, right? People are not, they need to know, this is not affecting them. And they're seeing this as, yeah, you got an 81-cent check, but then you also got some other exponential check or something. They don't feel bad for Mandy Moore. Let me just put it that way. And that comment really backfired. Despite that, when I did take the screenshot, it had 11,281 likes. Now, likes can be varied at people just bookmarking it. Now, there's a bookmark thing. So did 11,000 people actually like it? On Instagram, you can't put a downvote. So we don't know if that was, if people were out ratioed. I think it's called ratioing when you have the number of positive versus negative. So then you be really careful about what they say. And the negative outdoes the positive reaction. They're thinking about what they've got to go through. It's kind of, I'll give this illustration. Whenever I order something out, which is just to get takeout or whatever, and this is a very special holiday-only event, okay? When you're filling out your receipt, you'll see there about tipping the person who assembled it. Now, you weren't in the restaurant, you didn't get extra breadsticks, you didn't get refills of drink, you didn't get grade A service in any of those regards, okay? And the person wants a tip. I have never received a tip for my work, so meaning I got paid a flat fee for my work and services by the restaurant, and then I got a tip on top of that. Now, would it have been lovely to have received a tip? Abso-freaking-lutely. Did that happen? No. So I'm very much against tipping in that kind of situation because all they did was do their job. There was nothing extra on top of it. You know, if they were staying on top of drink refills, absolutely. Tip, tip, tip. For sure. For an in-restaurant experience. Again, that's kind of why I do takeout, is so that I can cut back on making my experience restaurant-wise more cost-friendly by not having that restaurant experience. And by the way, the last time I was in a restaurant, I had amazing service, amazing waitress. She was phenomenal, okay? Yes, she deserved a huge tip. Every time my water got down just a bit, she was on top of it. And she brought me refills of my Coke. Yes, I imbibed in a Coke. And so but she was all over it. And she was just so sweet and so lovely. And she made the experience in the restaurant, quite frankly, without her would have been a third of, it would have just been 5% of what it would have been if she wasn't there. Okay, so she totally took it to the next level. She deserves a tip. The person coming to my door and giving me the takeout food, I'm sorry, that's going to be a no for me. So I think the actors are kind of in a situation where they want to tip, and I get that because, look, Mandy Moore is going to be, This Is Us is going to be ran probably in syndication, if that's even still a thing, and it's going to be streamed, more importantly, on multiple services outside of Peacock, I'm sure. There are other people lining up to get it. So that's going to be living infinitely on. And so does she deserve, she contributed to that show, does she deserve to receive streaming residual checks? In my opinion, she does. Should they be 81 cents? I don't think so. I would have to look at, though, what the actual company is making off of, because there's so many hands that are going to get them a dollar from this. So what percentage of that is Mandy entitled to? I'm empathetic to it, probably more than other people, but I do see that this is going to be a huge, what do they call it when you're looking at something? You're looking at something and you're, man, it doesn't look good. Not the politics, the optics, that's what it is. When they're talking about, here are the optics of it. So going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to have this strike. The strike is affecting, I think, more than people are aware of right now because it's summer and fall shows aren't in, but obviously streaming is completely broke that whole thing. But we have shows that are coming out, nevertheless, and need to be promoted, and actors are being told you can't go out and promote the TV show, the movie. So we have to see how much are they. I'm very curious about how much they get paid while promoting it. That's a lot of time. They spend, I have to believe, Margot Robbie spent equal amount of time promoting the Barbie movie as she did making the Barbie movie. So she deserves to be compensated for that, in my opinion. And without that, we have to see, would that have affected not having Margot Robbie hitting the pavement as much as she did for Barbie movie? Would that have affected the end result of people going to see the movie? If you were just watching ads on YouTube or saw them online, but did Margot Robbie's promotion of it make the difference? So right now we're about to find out. There's not, I don't think, a project as huge as Barbie coming out in the near future, but I'm very curious to see how the lack of ability to promote will impact the popularity. We'll see what happens. I think the studios are honestly in a position where this is going to drag out for quite a while. I honestly would anticipate about 8 months of just, both are going to be very dug in and stubborn, and neither of these parties want to look like they lost. Okay, that's really the big thing. By the way, Fran Drescher, I believe she's the head of SAG now. Yes, it's just absolutely amazing. And I just saw her on the Lifetime miniseries. Mind-blowing. At least I believe it's a miniseries of movies. It's just an escape, okay? You watch it and you completely can just get yourself absorbed in Dawn and her problems and wonder where things are going to go. So we'll see what happens to promoting. I know someone who's getting ready to go to a convention, and they know people who've signed up for this convention, looking forward to it for months, have learned that because of the strike, the actors will not be allowed to talk about the very show they are having the convention about, okay? So actors are going to talk about the one thing that they almost always never want to talk about. What? Their private life? How is this even going to work? That is going to be an absolute downer. I cannot imagine having paid the prices I know they paid to go and see this convention, which is about the show, and not be able to have the actors talk about the show. That is just, I feel bad for the actors in a way because they have to do this. They have to stay in strike or they're going to be completely tarred and feathered by their colleagues. But at the same time, how they're now being put in a position where they're going to have to talk about their personal life. The one thing that I know actors do not typically like to talk about. Very protective, very private about that. They want to talk about the show. So how's that going to work out? I don't know. I'll have to let you guys know. That convention is coming up, so I'll have an update. Hopefully it doesn't get canceled because I am curious what will happen. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Eclectic Popcast. It was pretty eclectic. We talked about the actor strike, I guess, mainly, and a little bit about Margot Robbie, who just always seems to pop up. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Since I talked about Margot Robbie, I'm going to have to sign off with it. Have a barbeful day. Thank you for listening. Bye.